Hey everybody, it's such a beautiful day out here. I figured I'd come out and answer more of your questions. So this first question is a multi-part question. So what trail did you take down Katahdin? We took the Hunt trail, which is the same one we came up. How long did it actually take you to climb up and down Katahdin? Probably about, I want to say 4.5 hours. That seems reasonable. Did you take your full pack up or did you take the essentials? I actually took my full pack up. I figured I'd already brought it that far, may as well go the whole way with it. And I think that was the majority of the thought process behind my entire Tramily, because they all took their packs up too. Do you think anything will ever compare to your first major through hike? Probably not, but you know, we'll see. That's hard to tell. And finally, are we going to get a video of the wedding? So the wedding's my thing. I think I'm gonna be too busy to make, you know, something for everybody, but do check Instagram at Frozen's Outdoor Adventures, and I might be posting some pictures at least. All right, next question. Will you be creating a trail documentary? Yes, it's actually in the works. I'm still stuck at the intro. There's not much going on with it right now. I really wanna spend some time on it and make it a really great story, exactly what I went through, and a little bit, you know, behind the thought process of what was going on in my head. I just want it to be spectacular. I want to spend a lot of time on it, so there will be, not sure when at this point it's going to be out. Don't know if this has been asked, but would you have used the LiteAF in the beginning of the hike? Would a sewn in hip belt have helped with the extra weight? Should a beginner hiker get a frameless pack like LiteAF? So I totally would have used a LiteAF pack. In fact, LiteAF just came out with a framed version of my pack. So it has 2 aluminum stays in it, and I would totally have started with something like that at the beginning and then transition to the frameless pack. The reason why I really couldn't start with a frameless pack was because I was about 15 pounds base weight. For me, my build, about 10 pounds base weight translates into a comfortable frameless backpack. Now, on to your question about having a sewn-in hip belt, I definitely think that would have helped me with my Curve 35, but it's something I don't want or need when I get to that 10-pound base weight for 3-season weather. However, in colder weather, yes, I would love to have had a sewn-in hip belt attached to, you know, something like the new Curve 46 frame pack by LiteAF. And your last part of that question, should a beginner hiker get a frameless pack like LiteAF? So I think a beginner hiker is kind of in a transition mode where they really don't know what they need. They're kind of trying things out, seeing what works. And I think after you figured out what works for you, then you can start looking if a frameless pack is right for you. However, for a beginner, I would highly suggest that you do start out with a pack with a frame. And it just so happens that LiteAF does have that frame pack now. It's called the Curve 46, and that may change. I know it's a new product right now, but it looks pretty interesting. How was the 100-mile wilderness leading up to Katahdin? I plan on doing it next year. I'll be section hiking and I will be hammock camping. 100-mile wilderness, I thought, was one of the greatest sections of Maine that you could ever go into. It feels really remote. There are ways to get in and out via roads if you have to call ahead, obviously. But the whole 100-mile wilderness was absolutely beautiful. I had a really good time in there, and toward the end of that, I realized that my trip was coming to an end. My question is, how did you manage to create, edit, and post to YouTube all 66 episodes of your journey? At times it was easier than others. There were times where I just wanted to go to sleep on the trail, but I really forced myself not to get behind. So any footage that I had of that day would be edited down, it would be completed, and it'd be ready to go for tomorrow, so I wasn't backed up. In fact, the only time I did get backed up was when I was taking a 0 and I knew I had time to just lay around and edit the videos, but it was definitely an extra challenge on top of through hiking. Congrats, Frozen, on the completion and, of course, the engagement. Wishing you guys all the love and happiness in the world. Now that it's all said and done, besides your mental and emotional fortitude to be on trail day in, day out for 100+ days, what single piece of gear was the most crucial item and would consider the key element of completing your hike? So that's a good question. However, a single piece of gear is not going to be a key element in completing your hike. I think the most important gear for me was, at this point, it's a cross between my hammock and my backpack. Those 2 items, you know, during the day, the backpack provided my comfort. At night, the hammock provided my comfort. And it really is about comfort and control when you're on a through hike. So I'd say my pack and my hammock. Hey, great vlog on the AT. What was your average pack weight after a resupply? So after resupply, I probably averaged, and most of the time I was out for a 3 to 4 day stretch, I would be around 20 to 23 pounds on the heavy side with my food and water. What was your favorite hostel? Love the vid, keep kicking butt and taking names. So I would definitely have to say that my favorite hostel was Shaw's, right before the 100-mile wilderness. Why, you may ask? Because the hostel itself was very comfortable, it was very clean. They had the greatest breakfast I've ever had on the trail, except Fresh Grounds breakfast on the trail. But they had a gear shop on their property. So if you needed something like trekking poles or a rain jacket or a sleeping pad or even like a new pack, like a Hyperlite mountain gear pack, they had them in stock hanging on the wall. They had literally everything you needed in the gear emporium. Plus upstairs was a nice little resupply. So definitely Shaw's for sure. Hey Frozen, what percentage of your AT hike was spent alone and what percentage was spent hiking with others? Was there ever a problem when you wanted to hike alone and the whole Tramily was around and you needed to ditch them? So I spent the good first part of my hike trying to stay away from people. I'd say the first 20% of my hike, maybe 30% of my hike was just spent alone. And there were a couple days or weeks in between where I either was ahead of my Tramily or behind my Tramily trying to catch up. But, you know, I didn't really look at it that way. What I liked to do was I liked meeting up with people at camp. And this is what I told everybody when I hiked with them. I like hiking alone, and everybody respected that. Sometimes we hiked together. Most of the time I hiked alone, or it would be me and Murica, or me and Togs, or whoever would be with me. And that was cool. If anyone had a problem or they just didn't feel up to having conversation that day, we'd just say, hey man, I think I'm gonna do today alone. Or, you know, and everybody would understand. Nobody would get mad. Say I needed someone with me. I was like, Murica, can you follow me, man? I'm just not feeling it today. He would follow me. And likewise, I would follow him if he was having a bad day. So it really worked out well, but I'd say about 30 to 70% split on that. And like I said, there was never really a time where I had to ditch my Tramily to get alone or away from them. Do you have any plans to meet up with the Tramily in the future? I invited them all to the wedding. We'll see who shows up. I know most of them live very, very far away from me, so I'm not really expecting anything, especially Togs being from Brisbane, Australia. But we are gonna plan to do some trail magic with Fresh Ground next year, somewhere in the Max Patch area. I'm not sure when, it's still up in the air, but we're definitely gonna get back together again. That definitely will not be the last time we're seeing each other. And we have a little Google Hangouts group that we talk with each other every day and share what we're doing. Hey Frozen, great to see you again. Been really missing your trail videos every other day. Thanks again for months of amazing content. You're so welcome, I appreciate that. Congratulations on your engagement. I've always wondered about the big scar on your calf. What happened and does it bother you when hiking? So that scar on my calf is actually from when I got hit by a car. I was in 3rd grade. I was crossing my street to come home from school, and I lived unfortunately at the top of a hill, like at the crest of a hill. Even though there was a school zone, people kind of sped through that area, and I just ended up getting hit by a speeding car. She was actually coming home from school after getting her kids, and yeah, I was laid up in the hospital for quite a while. I was told later on in life that had I not been wearing a backpack that day, I probably would have lost my leg or have been dead. So really scary time for me. I can't imagine what my mom went through during that month, but I was in the hospital for an entire month. And yeah, I was pretty young, like 8 years old. But as far as it bothering me on the trail, no, I really don't have that much feeling there. It's just, I've been living with it for a while and kind of forget it's there. How much cash is recommended to carry between towns? Do most hostels take credit or debit cards for payment? I hear a lot about offering money for gas when getting rides to and from town, but I've not seen suggested safely to carry cash amounts on any blog. So for me, what I did was I carried between $60 and $100 of cash at any given time. Any more of that is completely overboard. In fact, you may be able to just get away with carrying $40 to $60. That's what I would recommend. But on the safe side, 60 to 100 seems to be the average. Most hostels accept credit cards. I can't think of a single one that didn't, that I stayed at least. I'm sure there are some. But most of the time, the farmers markets, getting food at these, you know, mom and pop shops, they don't take credit cards, or they charge you like $1.50 or $2 per transaction. So yeah, I'd say 60 and 100 bucks. That's where you want to be. Awesome job, man. Big time. Did you meet any vegans during your thru hike? I'm a vegan and thinking about hiking and wonder if it will be a challenge. Murica is he's not really a vegan, he's a pescatarian. So he's a vegan, but he eats fish. And I think it's going to be very, very challenging for some straight vegan to stay with their diet and their beliefs just because of the amount of protein that you need. I'm sure it can be done. I'm sure it has been done, but I would highly suggest you think at least maybe possibly eating some fish along the way. I know Murica didn't really have a hard time doing it at that point. I think he did add fish later on in the hike because he found it hard to just stay vegan though. Question. I know that you're a hammock guy, but based on your observations and experiences from watching other hikers, do you have an opinion about which is better for an AT thru hike, a tent or a hammock, assuming that person is equally comfortable in each? That's a good question. So I think either a tent or a hammock would suffice for anybody out there. There are some sites that are just amazing on the AT that you can only camp with a tent. And then on the flip side, the opposite is true with a hammock. You know, there's some sites that you can get with trees and a hammock, but the ground's really unlevel, but you can have an amazing view in the morning. So I'd honestly say just go with whatever is comfortable for you. I will say that I think the White Mountains would be a greater place, greater experience in a hammock. But I would also recommend you bring a sleeping pad to leave yourselves open to sleep in the shelter or the huts just to maintain the ultimate experience. For me, I didn't carry any of that. I just carried my hammock straight through the Whites and never had a problem. But I could definitely see myself doing the AT or perhaps another thru hike with a tent. Congrats on your thru hike and nice job on all your videos. Thank you very much. I was wondering about how you felt as far as your physical condition when you started the trail. I remember a video showing that you were doing insanity to try and get more physically prepped. Do you think that helped? If you could start over, would you have tried to get stronger before starting? So if I had started over, I would not have done any kind of challenge hikes because I really screwed up my leg and my knee on a challenge hike that I did that had me and forced me to stop working out for 2 months prior to my thru hike. I felt like I could have came into the thru hike way stronger than what I was. I think I should have probably had just planned 15 to 18 miles a day and not have pushed it to 20 to 28 miles a day on my challenge hikes. I think that would have been way smarter. The last thing you want to do is get hurt right before a thru hike. But I definitely think I could have done a lot better had I been a little bit stronger and trained. And as far as the Insanity program, I'm telling you what, if you haven't done the Insanity program, you scoff at those in-home workouts, try it for 2 weeks. I guarantee you will feel so much better and feel so much stronger and be in the best shape of your life in 2 weeks if you stick with the program. Highly recommend it. Question, choose one. What was most annoying? Wind, rain, cold, or bugs? Wind. Bugs. Wind up till New Hampshire. Bugs after that. I know I can only pick one. I'll say with wind though. Now for the hard-hitting question. When's the next hike with Gary? I honestly haven't talked to Gary in a while. I'm gonna have to come hang out with him or invite him over, and maybe we'll just have a BSing session on camera about our thru hikes. I know that's been requested a lot. Whenever I feel good enough to get out on a hike, I'm gonna go on a solo hike, and then I will definitely invite Gary out with me. And if he wants to go, by all means. So your tarp after your hike, do you think you need the doors? Did you use them more than not? Thanks, and again, congrats. A lot of people have been asking me that question, and I don't use the tarp doors all that much, but when I need them, they are an absolute lifesaver. And especially if you're looking at something lightweight like a Dyneema composite fabric tarp, I would just say throw the doors on there for the extra 1 to 2 ounces that it's gonna cost you. They are definitely worth it. If you ever experienced sideways rain or high wind coming into your hammock while you're trying to sleep, it's just the most miserable thing in the world, and then there's nothing you can really do about it. Unless, if you had doors, you could shut the doors and lower the tarp right onto you, thus creating a little bit of a hanging tent in the air. So I honestly say to everybody that asks me, I would definitely recommend the doors. They're there if you need them, and the weight really is negligible on adding them to a Cuban fiber tarp. Did the trail meet your expectations? I didn't realize how much rock climbing was involved. Did you take many side trails, especially for views? The trail definitely met my expectations. In fact, it exceeded my expectations. I didn't think it would be that beautiful or that worthwhile for me to go on this kind of hike, but as you guys know, I've just completely changed. My family and friends tell me all the time how I'm just more relaxed and happy, and I tend to agree with them. As far as taking side trails, I used to take like every side trail I could, starting in Georgia, but then I realized that most of the side trails led you to views that you could see probably 0.2 or 0.3 up the trail anyway, so I started just skipping them. If there was a waterfall or something awesome, then I would obviously go to that and check it out, especially if it was an early day. It really depended how long and how tired I was throughout the day. And I constantly reminded myself that I didn't have to never see that part of the trail again. I could always come back and revisit it at a later date. The final question for today is, did you keep your hiker hunger when you got home? You look really thin. So thank you, I think, but I did end up keeping my hiker hunger for about 2.5 weeks after I got home. After that, things kind of slowed down and I'm starting to lose weight again. I'm back up to 146 pounds, almost the weight that I was when I left for the trail, and I'd like to get down to 140, maybe 138, somewhere around there, which is right around my normal average weight of 135. So hiker hunger is definitely a thing. You will be surprised how much you can eat, and like I said, it's finally starting to go away about 2 months after the trail. Anyway guys, thank you so much for your questions. I really enjoyed doing these for you guys, and if you have any more questions, comment below and I'll be sure to answer them in an upcoming Q&A. Thanks everybody, I'll see you on the trail.